You do make a very compelling argument for Chinese firms being delisted from US indexes, but are you surprised that Larry Kudlow pretty firmly ruled that out?
Well, I think what seems to have been said at this point is that that's not the primary consideration. We've seen just recently overnight that there is further talk of limiting, for instance, U.S. pension funds, specifically from U.S. government-controlled pension funds into Chinese stocks. So I think that is very firmly on their radar. I don't think that those are steps that they're taking right now, as we've already seen with a variety of other steps. For instance, the overnight announcement about visa restrictions on CCP officials connected to Xinjiang. I think that is on their to-do list or something that they are considering. I don't think it's something that's going to happen in the near future.
Yeah, as these two sides do try to sort of take one step forward, two steps back towards moving towards some sort of resolution on trade, would the political cost of delisting just be too great right now?
Well, that is one of the, it's not just the political cost, it's also the financial cost. There are roughly $1.2 trillion in value of Chinese companies listed in the United States, and taking a move like that would be seriously problematic for those firms and for Americans invested in those firms. I think one of the questions that they have to answer is what would be the steps. We've heard rumors about something like a 3-year phase-in, where Chinese companies would have 3 years to become compliant before they would be delisted. So I think a lot of the steps to move forward would be what type of process would that be moving forward.
And of course, this week we also had backlash against the NBA and that controversy over Hong Kong. So how difficult will it be for these companies to balance not only their economic needs, but also the political restrictions in China?
Well, I think one of the key issues here is that it's the companies that are listed that are facing this problem, but this is really a Beijing problem, because Beijing has declared all financial records of these companies state secrets. So I actually believe a good number of these companies would actually like to comply. We've seen that when some percentage of Chinese companies are faced with either competition or higher regulatory standards, they comply. And a lot of the companies that have listed in the United States, I actually believe that they would want to comply. There are, of course, some that would not. However, I think the primary obstacle is not these companies, but Beijing and their unwillingness to really acknowledge global regulatory standards for accounting and auditing.
In the meantime, we have seen Beijing take more measures to open up its financial markets. How are we looking in terms of China's need for hard international currency? In other words, their dollar needs at this point?
I think that is the primary issue. For instance, just recently they released balance of payment data, and this is the largest year of net errors and omissions in their capital account. Really, this decade, there was 131. I believe the number was 131 billion in net errors and omissions, and that's basically money that they can't account for that has somehow left China. And so this is basically showing us that capital outflows are increasing. And so even though Beijing is working very hard to tamp down on that, I think all indications is that they are much shorter U.S. dollar than I think most people realize. We just saw them this week pull out of a $5 billion investment in an oil field in Iran. We've seen other indications that they are much shorter U.S. dollar than is widely understood.